With the Cancun upgrade expected to be happening later this year, which is set to reduce fees on Ethereum layer 2s by an order of magnitude, I think now is the perfect time to do my L2 tier list. So in today's video, I'm going to be ranking the L2s in front of you based on two factors. A, the protocol itself, so how I view the protocol from a long-term perspective, and B, how I view the project from an investment perspective. So let's say the criteria are going to be weighted 50-50, taking a bit of the investment side into account, taking a bit of the protocol side into account, and I'm sure in today's video there's going to be some controversial placements. Just remember, this is all just my opinion based on the current information available at the time of recording this video. Do let me know though in the comments if you disagree or agree with anything. Let me know and provide your reasons why. I'd be very interested to make this an open discussion. So today, here is my L2 ranking. So why am I doing it now? Why am I ranking L2s today? Well, it's important to note that the ETH EIP-4844 upgrade is coming in what's expected to be Q4 later this year, and that is going to reduce fees on L2s by introducing something called proto-dank sharding, which is a method which is going to significantly reduce the cost incurred by rollups. In yesterday's video, I did a full deep dive on what the Cancun upgrade is. There's a link in the description if you want to check that out and look at it from a more technical perspective. But today, we're going to be talking about the tokens themselves, the L2s, which are obviously one of the major beneficiaries of this upgrade, as they are going to see their fees actually end up reducing. So that's why today we're going to be discussing them and ranking them on our tier maker here. You can see the L2s in front of you. There are quite a few L2s in the market, but I have picked these 7 because these are 7 that are the biggest in the market, the ones I know the most about, and also the ones that I see being talked about the most. But if I did miss any that are on this list, let me know, and in the future, of course, I can cover them. So without further ado, let's get into the ranking. Now, the first one, which you probably can't see because of the black background, is IMX. So Immutable X, it has a very strong gaming and NFT focus, and that's really what underpins the Immutable ecosystem. So if we look at the funding, and we're going to go through the funding of every single project we mention in today's video, because I believe it's a very competitive landscape, and funding in this space is so crucial. We can see that they have raised $260 million, so they are fairly well funded, so that's definitely not a knock on them. I think they are in a specific niche though, which takes time. Like gaming and NFTs, we haven't really seen the first bona fide crypto game, so we haven't really seen it kick into full effect, and that's probably the reason why, if you look in front of you, the transactions just have never really taken off. So not much network effects, so to speak, yet. Not much like active development in terms of products that we can actually use right now really occurring, but they did partner with Polygon in their Web3 gaming division. So this is a very hard one to rank, and keep in mind, by the end of the video, I might readjust the rankings. I'm just going to chuck them in where I see fit, but I think I'm going to put it at C. Now, obviously, S is your best tier, D is your worst tier, taking into account the protocol from a long-term perspective and a fundamental perspective, and also the investment side of things as well. I think I'm going to put it in C for now, but this may end up changing. All right, I've tweaked the order just a little bit for the second coin, which is now Optimism. Now, where are we going to rank Optimism? Well, the first thing to understand is, firstly, the difference between optimistic and ZK rollups. So, optimistic and ZK rollups are two different approaches to batching transactions, rolling up transactions on the Ethereum network to make Ethereum more scalable. Now, personally, I think ZK, due to their privacy element, is probably long-term the better technology, but in terms of spinning up a ZK rollup, it is more difficult, and that's why we've seen Arbitrum and Optimism go to market and achieve success in the short term versus products like ZkSync and StarkNet, which are ZK-based rollups, which are taking a lot more time. So the network effect that Optimism has been able to get in the short term has been really strong. We can see the transactions per day are quite high compared to some of the other L2s. We can also see transaction fees at times have been high, although in recent months this has dropped a little bit as network activity has dropped. In terms of funding, they are relatively well funded with $178.5 million worth of funding. They recently did a $150 million seed round led by Paradigm and Andreessen Horowitz A16Z, so they are well funded as well. So where am I going to rank Optimism? I think Optimism is a solid protocol. I think the fact it's an optimistic roll-up probably limits it in the short term, although we know like Arbitrum and Optimism may end up pivoting into ZK products in the future, so that's not necessarily a huge knock on it. I think one of the knocks is the tokenomics, considering there is quite a hefty unlock schedule, so a little bit of supply going to continue to come onto the market. But on the positive side, they are working with Coinbase, and their developer stack has been used by a lot of major parties. Coinbase launching their L2 built on Optimism. So for that reason, it's probably going to go slightly above IMX here. There are things I don't like the dilution, but there are things that I do like. For example, the fact that its developer kit is being widely used. So I'm going to put it in B, smack bang in the middle. Remember, those rankings may change throughout the course of this video. All right, number 3. The first product which actually hasn't even launched yet. So how do we possibly talk about the investment potential of a token that hasn't launched yet? Well, we're going to have to do a little bit of speculation here when it comes to ZkSync and StarkNet, and really judge them more based on their products and less based on the tokenomics, because we don't have the tokenomics, we don't know the market cap when it launches, so we're going to have to more focus on the product side of things. The product side of things for ZkSync, well, it's an absolute behemoth if you look from a funding perspective. It's raised over $458 million. You've got basically every big VC in the space backing it, and the activity on the chain has been huge. We can see TVL at 170 million, which is one of the highest growers in terms of TVL across any chain, because a lot of people right now are farming the airdrop. We know that there probably is going to be a ZkSync airdrop coming sometime, maybe Q1 next year, and because of that, there is a lot of hype and a lot of TVL entering the ecosystem. We can see as a result, the amount of transactions from ETH mainnet to ZkSync has also been skyrocketing, with unique addresses also steadily rising as well. So from a metrics perspective, it's gone from strength to strength. From a funding perspective, it's super strong, but it's hard to quantify because it's not on the market yet. So look, we know each cycle the new coins tend to do better than the old coins. That's just a trend because there's less underwater holders. People tend to gravitate towards the new shiny objects. For that reason, we could probably speculate it could be a good product, but it's also not really the most usable chain right now. Like, I think Arbitrum, Optimism, even Matic, probably more usable in their current forms because, ZkSync hasn't launched fully yet. So it's really hard to judge. I know mainnet's launched, but it's still a bit clunky and not the greatest experience. That knocks it off S tier for me, but I'm putting it in A for now because ZK rollups, in my opinion, are the future. And I think they have an amazing capital base, so lots of funding, a big valuation to back up, but nonetheless, lots of supporters, lots of backers. We know that in this space, given how competitive this space is, I mean, the L2 space is probably the most hotly contested niche in crypto alongside the L1 space. Funding is going to go a long way because when protocols run out of dry powder to keep up development efforts, keep up marketing efforts, they're going to be facing behemoths with multi-billion-dollar valuations like ZkSync and StarkNet, and it's going to be hard to fight them. So ZkSync, I think, has an advantage in that category. That's why it's going in my A tier. It's what I'm excited about, but the product right now doesn't really warrant me putting it in S tier because we just don't really know what it's going to look like once it fully launches. When I say fully launches, I mean has a token, the network's fully developed. We see some of the artificial transactions die down after the airdrop, etc. All right, let's talk about Matic. This is going to be a difficult one to rank because there are some things I really like about Matic and some things I don't like about Matic. So let's start with the funding. They actually recently did a $450 million raise at a $2 billion valuation. That is a huge funding round for Polygon. So there was criticism over Polygon because they had spoken about how they burnt through a couple $100 million of their runway, and that got people worried that they weren't going to be able to keep up with some of their other competitors here. But they recently did a massive funding round, which has helped, I think, bolster those stocks a little bit in terms of the amount of capital they have to keep attacking this market. And look, yeah, their TVL's down a lot, but it's still at 945 mil, so still a 7x ZkSync, 6 or 7x. But clearly, it's dropped a lot and a lot more than some other chains because the DeFi has dropped. Transactions also started to drop. Not the most used network, but still 2.5 million a day, still relatively high compared to other protocols. So look, this drop-off probably isn't what you want to see. There's been a lot of sell pressure recently because of, forced sales through Robinhood, Celsius, and there has been some vocal issues spoken about the centralization of the chain. That's, another factor we have to take into account here. Will they be able to compete with ZkSync and StarkNet? That's another thing. Obviously, they launched their ZkEVM product to try and compete with the ZK space. I think overall, given the fact it has quite a big ecosystem, especially in the gaming space, I think that positions it, really strongly as a potential big player in the gaming industry, the NFT industry. I think its fees, obviously, like all of these are going to become a lot cheaper after the EIP upgrade. Overall, it's a good ecosystem, but where am I going to put it? Am I going to put it up with ZkSync? For now, I'm going to put it above Optimism, but below ZkSync in the B category. Now, some people will be like, Mars, why aren't you putting it in A? I just think it's such a competitive space. It would be hard to call it the definitive winner right now based on their current tech. If their ZkEVM impresses me and it rivals ZkSync's ZK capabilities, obviously Polygon acquired Hermes network for a couple $100 million, then I'm happy to put it up here, but I think for now it's B. Maybe at the end I'll reassess that, but for now it's B. All right, let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about Metis. So Metis, probably the smallest market cap of this entire list. It doesn't have the biggest TVL, only $98 million in TVL, and a smaller market cap, but I'm putting it in because a lot of people talk about it quite strongly, and I wanted to do some research to actually find out a little bit more about Metis. So from a funding perspective, it has very low funding, not that many backers, and it also isn't really just as big. I mean, it's hard to compare magnitude between a project like Metis with the small market cap and, ZkSync and these other big projects, Arbitrum, with big market caps and big valuations. So we almost have to consider this one more from an investment perspective, because if we look at fundamentals, well, clearly some of its competitors have the edge, but Metis being a lower market cap token, when you see inflows into the L2 space, it probably, in terms of just pure price percentage gain, is going to be higher than some of the other tokens on this list. So for Metis, I think I'm going to put it in, I mean, from an investment perspective, because the inflows are going to impact price more, but fundamentals still aren't the strongest here, I think I'm going to put it alongside IMX. I actually think IMX might be slightly better, just due to its capabilities in the gaming space. I mean, it's unfortunate for Metis. They just don't have the funding for me to put them higher, so I'm putting them in C for now. So, all right, let's look at how our list is sitting. I think it looks okay for now, but we have two really hard ones to rank next. You've got StarkNet, which has a huge valuation and pretty amazing tech, but not much of a current product. And you have Arbitrum, which is almost the opposite in the sense that they were one of the first to market, and they have a lot of users, they have a lot of transactions. So how do I prefer these two? Well, that's something I'm going to talk about in just a second, but quickly, I wanted to give a thank you to our show sponsor, CoinWeb, for sponsoring the show. Actually, in line with this video, they are actually an L2 that are building an interoperability layer 2 protocol. So basically, it's going to be a solution for you to be able to transfer assets like Bitcoin and Ethereum between networks without having the constraints of having to use bridges and tokens that aren't compatible on multiple networks. So it's very cool. They've created a reactive smart contract system and a blockchain routing system as well. And that's all going to be baked into their new wallet, which is basically going to be able to allow you to create, send, and interact with tokens multi-chain. So you could actually create a token and send it to a friend or a family member, and you can actually swap those tokens across multiple chains and on their proprietary DEX, which they'll be launching soon as well. So very cool product that's going to be coming. This is, of course, their wallet. If you want to try it out, be one of the very first people to try it out, there is a $1,000 giveaway using the link in the description. If you complete the quests, which involve following them on Twitter, Telegram, and completing their quest board on 𝗤𝗟𝗓, you will get access to the wallet before anyone else. And you will also get a chance to win a $1,000 giveaway. So link in the description to that. Click on the link, complete the quests, and you can be entered into the giveaway. But it's very cool, and they're also a layer 2 interoperability protocol. Slightly different from some of these other chains because they're more of an infrastructure solution rather than just like a bona fide L2. But it's very cool because they can connect some of the networks we've spoken about today, like your Matic and your Arbitrum and your Optimism. They can actually help interoperability between those networks. That's very, very cool. And of course, eventually these networks will be supported on the wallet. So link in the description to that. All right, now we have to focus on StarkNet. So let's talk about StarkNet's funding. It's the first, I think, major elephant in the room here. Not necessarily the amount that they've raised, but just the valuation they've raised at $8 billion raise. It's absolutely massive. And this means, look, when they do an airdrop, I expect this to be one of the biggest airdrops in crypto because we know the companies that are valued the highest typically have the most ammunition to give out an airdrop. One, because in the denominated value of their tokens. The airdrop is worth more compared to their valuation, of course, if you're a higher market cap, but also because the more you actually raise in capital, the more ammunition you have to give a percentage of that out to the users. And 10% of 300 million is still 30 million. It's better than 10% of 3 million, which is 300k, which like some of the small projects will do. So just on pure scale, I think the airdrop here will be big. I think for that reason, we're going to see some of the metrics tick up. We have seen that in terms of its TVL, but still, relative to ZkSync, fairly small. I think it's slightly behind in terms of its development. So it does have a lot of protocols built on StarkX, which is its scaling solution. So you've got like Apex and other DEXs built on StarkX. But in terms of StarkNet, it's proprietary L2, we haven't really seen it really kick off into gear yet. There's a lot of people, trying to farm and bridge onto the testnet, but in terms of mainnet, it's pretty much behind ZkSync, probably going to launch after as well, which is one of the reasons why you aren't seeing crazy transactions per day. So this is a weird one to rank because on one hand, you have a super high valuation and you have a super cool product and with a lot of promises. And then on the other hand, we're not seeing much. I mean, it's the opposite to Arbitrum. You're not seeing transaction volume. You're not seeing TVL. So it becomes very hard to quantify. So from an investment perspective, almost impossible to rank. From a tech perspective, hard to rank because I can't actually use the project, but I think it's going to be good and I think it has the backing to be good. So for now, I'm going to put it in the B category alongside Matic and Optimism. I know you probably annoyed I'm not splitting the three tokens, but I will tentatively say they're in order from left to right, and putting StarkNet just behind Optimism. In terms of like actual tech, you could probably argue it's A alongside ZkSync, but I can't put it up there because they don't have a product that's really working in the same capacity. Yes, they have their StarkX product, which works with a lot of other dApps that are being built on StarkNet, but the actual network itself doesn't have much going for it right now in terms of I can't really log on and use it, and when I do use testnet, it's not the greatest experience. So I'm going to put it in B, which leaves Arbitrum as my last token to rank in today's show. Now, Arbitrum, probably the one that's been spoken most about, probably the one with the most hype behind it because it has those metrics to underpin it. I mean, just look at some of the dApps that have been built on it. GMX, Gains Network as well. I mean, offering amazing trading experiences, even to be honest, like, because I trade on Gains, right? Even when I was using Polygon, and then when Gains shifted over to Arbitrum, I noticed a huge difference in performance and fees once they had deployed on Arbitrum. It was just so much cheaper, better to use. I prefer bridging to Arbitrum. It's just a lot less janky than Matic. So even like a little thing for me as a trader, having dApps deploying on Arbitrum like Gains, it really made the experience better. So Arbitrum has been great for a lot of dApps in the ecosystem, and as a result, it's accrued a lot of TVL. If we go into DeFi Llama and sort by chains, you can actually see that Arbitrum is ranked number 4, only behind ETH, Tron, and BSC for TVL. So it's a behemoth in terms of TVL. As we can see here, it's consistently grown. It has had a bit of a drop-off post-airdrop, but I think you've got to give it its plaudits for not dropping in terms of usage post-airdrop as much as some other chains have. Other chains have done airdrops and then completely died. Arbitrum, because it has such a sticky community, because it's such a great product to use, and it was product first, airdrop later, a lot of people were just on the chain to use it. Like, I got a pretty big airdrop, but I just got it for using Gains and doing a few other things like bridging onto Arbitrum. I wasn't farming the airdrop, but I enjoyed using it, and it had great dApps, so I got an airdrop as a subsequent reward. By the way, if you do want to trade on Gains, there is a link in the description, of course. They're one of our show partners, and I think, it's a great dApp to use, but it's just an example of, look, you can get an airdrop just for using a chain. So Arbitrum, I'm kind of stalling here because I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to rank it. It does have decent funding. It's got $123.7 million worth of funding, relatively high FDV, over 10 billion in the market, which ranks it fairly highly. Long-term, does that limit its upside? Maybe, but short-term, heading into EIP, I think if people are going to choose a proxy bet right now as a liquid token in the market that you can invest in the hype to the Cancun upgrade and trade, apart from Optimism and Matic, specifically Optimism, I'd say Arbitrum's your best bet. So I'm going to put it in A. I'm going to put it in A. I think it's slightly outpacing Optimism for relative metrics between the two. Like we can see here, the active addresses per day on Arbitrum slightly higher than the active addresses per day on Optimism. Total addresses are 7.8 mil. Total addresses on Optimism, 3.4 mil. Yes, it's 40% valued higher, but its metrics also outpace it in most areas by more than 40%. Optimism does have that nice developer kit, but I still prefer Arbitrum. and I'll stick by that. So, but keep in mind, I'm more long Arbitrum than I am Optimism. So maybe personal bias kicking in there, but I'm going to put Arbitrum in the A category. So let's review our list here. Let's just have a look at where we sit, and then we might make some tweaks. All right. Hard to compare ZkSync and Arbitrum because one isn't more of an upcoming product, one's more of a current working product. ZkSync just has the backing, and I think it's just a lot stronger fundamentally. So I still think it's the best one. Then we have Polygon, Optimism, StarkNet. Once again, hard to compare these. Polygon with more, of a gaming focus, trying to be kind of like that main L1, that utility style L1. Optimism actually focusing a lot more on its developer kit, like with the Coinbase chain that's launching using Optimism. You've got obviously Optimism accrues some value from that too, with fees being paid back to Optimism. StarkNet, not launched, high val. I think the fact that we can't really do much on it right now means I'm going to have to put it in B. And then you've got IMX and Metis last. I mean, kind of rough on IMX, and also kind of rough on Metis in a way because it's a low market cap. So it doesn't necessarily absolve the validity of investing here. I just think it's difficult to place them in the same category as some of the others. So why isn't anything in S tier? Because I think S tier is just Ethereum. To be honest, Ethereum ultimately accrues the most value from all these L2s. If you're using an L2 network, it's still relying on the Ethereum consensus, and ETH is just the GOAT when it comes to the investment, to the long-term validity and investment potential, and it also doesn't really have much of a moat. All these competitors are slotting into ETH. All of these are competing with each other, which means there's going to be winners and losers. ETH ends up being a winner either way, and the gas fees lowering is only good for ETH too, with EIP-4844 coming. So the S tier, I don't have the little logo, but I do have it here. I would put ETH in the S tier. I'll put ETH in the S tier. I'm not going to put any of these in because a lot still needs to play out, but I'm happy with this for now. Look, you could spread it out, something like this, but I feel harsh putting Metis last because I don't think it's that bad, and I actually quite like some elements of Metis. And I also feel bad putting ZkSync above Arbitrum, given just currently as a product, Arbitrum is one of the best products on the market in terms of L2s. So that is my ranking. Let me know what you think in the description below. Did I get this wrong? What would you change? What did I miss? Are there fundamentals I missed? Let me know. Also, let me know, very important, what rankings would you like me to do next? Is there any tier lists that you would like me to do? L1s, gaming projects, DeFi projects, DEXs, let me know, and I'll rank them. I think it's a really fun style of show that I can do on the show. Look, if you want to trade any of these, of course, you've got Gains Network if you want to do perp trading, but if you want to trade spot, OKX has most of these tokens. So if we look at Arbitrum, it's got it. Let me just check. It's got Matic, it's got Optimism, it's got Metis. It obviously doesn't have StarkNet or ZkSync because they're not out yet, but it's got most of the L1s. So if you do want to trade them, any of these L1s, buy any of these L1s, short them, whatever you want to do, trade on your own prerogative. There's a link in the description to OKX. If you use the OKX link, there is a $10,000 mystery box currently available, meaning if you just sign up for an account, you can open a mystery box, which could be valued up to a maximum reward of $10,000. Now, of course, probability is, you're only going to win 5, 10, 50, 100, maybe 10,000 if you're really lucky, but, probabilities you won't win much, but who knows? It's a gamble, and for those that like gambling, I mean, well, you are in crypto after all. Link in the description for a new OKX account. It's going to give you access to trading all of these tokens. That's probably the place I would do it. And yeah, let me know what you think of the tier list. What tier list do you want to see next? And I will see you in the next show. Remember, if you want to learn more about the Cancun upgrade, there's a video in the description that I did yesterday. I will see you later. Have a lovely day. Peace out.